This is Ari Homayun, and you're listening to the Volley Talk podcast.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Volley Talk podcast. I know it's been a while, 2 years to be exact, but now we're finally back. So for those of you who don't know, I've been studying in the United States for the past 4 years, and I've been a college student athlete. So I couldn't really find the time to do this, but now that I've graduated, I'm super excited to get back into it. A little brief introduction of our amazing guest today. She is Coach Ari Homayun, and she is literally my role model. I look up to her so much, and she inspires me to become a better volleyball player, a better woman, and a better leader every day. So Coach Ari played at University of Hawaii, where she holds the record for the most individual wins, 118 to be exact, and that's very, very, very impressive. And after she finished playing at Hawaii, she went to coach at Cal Poly with Todd Rogers, Olympic gold medalist. And after that, she came to CSUN and she was our head coach. And she's the first and youngest female coach to have played the sport and then become a coach. And now she is transferring to UC Davis. Today's episode, we explore her decision to transfer, how she rose to the top of her game, the influence her family has had on her coaching philosophy, and so much more. If you're a young volleyball player or who's aspiring to become a coach, this is the episode for you. For those of you who are listening from outside of the United States, I know that some of the things we talk about might be a little confusing. Trust me, I was there 4 years ago, but don't worry, I plan on making some videos and episodes breaking down the American collegiate system a little better. So regardless, this is a fantastic episode full of wisdom and golden nuggets from Ari. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. First of all, Ari, congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats on your new head coaching position at UC Davis. Obviously, as a player at CSUN, I'm very sad. I mean, we all know how much you impacted the program and how you took us to the next level. But I kind of want to ask you, what spurred your decision to move? Because I've always wondered at the back of my mind, when is Ari gonna leave CSUN? But I didn't expect it to be so soon.
Yeah, there was a lot that went into it. I think part of the decision making and part of why I think it was hard to leave CSUN, and I honestly really didn't have plans of leaving, is because my family's here. And for me, building a program and turning a program around is most admirable from a coaching perspective. It's fulfilling, right? To take a program that could be good and make it good or make it great. And I saw that opportunity at CSUN, and it happened faster than I thought it would. Again, CSUN has no resources.
Yeah.
And so for it to continue to grow in the way that it was really, really cool. However, I think having a very honest conversation with myself, I think it was going to take a really long time to get it to where I wanted it to be.
Okay, because of the limited resources?
Right.
Okay.
I don't think it was impossible. I don't think it'll not happen. It just wasn't. It's like taking someone that's not super, super athletic and trying to teach them volleyball. They'll get good with enough reps, with enough time, with enough, discipline. They'll get good at volleyball. It's just going to take a really long time versus you take someone that's pretty raw athletically, that progression is a little bit faster. Even someone that's dedicated and wants to do the right thing, that progression happens a little bit faster. So the Davis job was open. I applied to it, kind of not thinking that I would get it. Honestly,
really? Why?
Yeah, again, imposter syndrome is so real.
Ari, you out of all people, come on.
I know, but their last hire was a middle-aged man. So I'm thinking they wanted experience. They wanted, someone that was a little bit older. I think part of it being a woman and being on the younger side, those are kind of reasons where, I'm fully confident in myself. And it's weird because the imposter syndrome happens not because I don't think that I'm qualified, but because I think other people don't think I'm qualified.
Yeah.
So I applied kind of just for the experience and, to go through the interview process. Every job that I've gotten up until this point, I kind of knew I was getting already. And so this was kind of like a cold interview.
Oh, wow.
They did recruit me a little bit. So I think I learned that after the fact. So knowing that, it makes sense that it went the way that it did. But yeah, I think just from a perspective, I was never going to leave CSUN for a lateral move. to
what
go
does
to.
lateral move mean?
So I was never going to leave CSUN to go to a program that was just as good.
Oh, you wanted to step up.
Yeah,
Got
I
it.
wanted
Okay.
to move up, and the resources that Davis has, the what they're investing in the program, to me seems like they want it to succeed, and it's a little bit more than what CSUN's doing.
Okay.
So they made it really, really hard to say no.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that program's looking for stability. It's looking for consistency.
Yeah.
They believe, like, from the get-go, I could tell that they believed that I was someone that could do that for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have the administration believe in me in that way was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Again, so they made it really, really hard to say no to. And the hardest part about leaving CSUN was the girls. Again,
Yeah.
funding, no scholarships, lack of resources, whatever. I could deal with that. I could deal with that for years and years and years and years because you guys were so great, and it was so rewarding. And, I started like bringing in class after class and group after group.
Yeah.
It just kept getting better and better and better. And I was like, oh, I can see like the fruits of my labor. I can
Yeah.
see what I'm building. So that was the hardest part to say
Yeah.
or to like walk away from. Leaving my family, whatever, all of that wasn't really like I could do that.
Yeah. You've done that before.
I've done it before. I've left before. But yeah, no, it was the girls that I was like, no. I almost said no, and it was solely
Wow,
solely for
okay.
the girls. So yeah,
Yeah, CSUN girls, you hear that? It's not you.
it was me technically, and the girls were great. They received the information really, really well. I like said it in the Zoom. I was like, if you guys want to be mad at me, I totally understand. And all of them were like, we're kind of just sad. We're not really mad. And so, yeah, they were all happy for me in the end, and they all kind of understood why I made the decision that I made.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've invested 3 years with some of these girls, and so I'm invested in their success, invested in their life beyond college. I want them to be happy, and so I'm gonna keep tabs. This is the Valley is my home, so I'll be back all the time. My parents are here. I'm about to have a nephew in August, and so you know what I mean. Like I'm gonna be here a lot, and so I'll keep my tabs on all of you.
Yeah, and I think also like we'll get more into the coaching part later, but that's what I really respect about you as a coach is that you always let us know that you care about us more than just as an athlete. Like you really make sure to look at us like as a whole human being. And I know that there's so many conversations that you have with us like behind closed doors that we don't even like see.
Yeah.
So so UC Davis, you're really lucky to have Ari. Take care of her well there. But it's so funny. So I was talking to Gabby about this, and then we were like, dang, Ari was at Hawaii, she was at CSUN, and now she's at Davis. Like, she is the big West. Like, she is the biggest West.
Kim texted me, and she was like, the Infinity Stone, that like the superhero that collects the Infinity Stones, is she's like, this is you collecting Big West schools. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's really funny.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Yeah, and then it's like Lord of the Rings, it's like the one ring to rule them all.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
That's so funny.
Okay, but so I kind of just wanted to like ask you like your whole story basically. Like, how did you first, get into beach volleyball?
Yeah, I was a kid that played a ton of sports growing up, and none of them stuck. Like I tried soccer, tried softball, tried basketball. It was fun, and I loved like running around, but no other sport really stuck the way volleyball did. I remember I played like a random grass league type of thing as my first practice, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really fun. And then my cousin was actually trying out for a club team, and so I like begged my parents to do that. Made it on the club team. I think I was kind of pretty good from the jump, having done a bunch of sports. And then the club that I played for, the founder actually played on the AVP for a little while. And
wait, who was it?
his name was Andrew Vasquez. He was like a soccer guy turned volleyball guy.
Cool.
But because he competed, we would do summer programs playing beach volleyball. So we would do the whole indoor club season, and then we would train on the beach during the summers, kind of just as a tool to get better on the indoor side.
Yeah.
And NCAA beach wasn't a thing yet. So I was just doing it because I remember there was 2 of us on a 14s team that did the summer program, and when we came back that following year, her and I were like light years better than the rest of my team that came back.
Okay.
And so I was like, wow, I'm like seeing how
Yeah.
much better I'm getting. So I committed to doing the summer programs, and then first 2 years of beach, I lost every game that I played. You know, I'm playing against girls that grew up on Manhattan Beach and in Hermosa,
Yeah.
since they could like walk. And
Yeah.
so just getting the hang of the sport, I lost every game that I played, but it was worth it to me because I was getting better on the indoor side.
Oh, so at that time you were still more indoor focused.
Yes.
So your purpose of playing beach was just to improve indoor.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so wearing the losses was tough, but I was still seeing some benefit to it. So I was like, whatever, I'm just going to keep going. And then eventually, kind of that third year is when I started to win some games. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Again, continued to do it as a tool to help on the indoor side. And it
Yeah.
did. My all-around skill set got better. Passing, setting, hitting, decision-making offensively. Because
Right.
I played outside at the small club that I played for. Again, I'm 5'5", you know, on a good day. So being an outside, I was on a 18s team when I was 14.
Whoa.
And I was the starting outside hitter for that team. So I was like, you know, figuring out I was the tool queen at the time, you know, like I was not getting power straight down kills. So yeah, and then eventually, I think going into my summer after my sophomore year of high school, I think, it's been a long time, I realized that beach was becoming like an ABCA sport
Okay.
collegiately, and so I was like, okay, this is cool. And then my dream school to play at had been University of Hawaii, and I wanted to go play indoor there. And then
okay.
the University of Hawaii coach was at a tournament that I was playing at.
Was
And
it Dylan's dad?
No, he wasn't the coach yet.
Okay.
So it was actually Scott Wong was the head coach.
Oh,
and he's,
Scott. Okay.
Yeah, so he's not Pepperdine.
Yeah.
He was the assistant for the indoor team at Hawaii, but head for the beach team.
Got it. Okay.
And then his assistant, Michelle Meyer, she was the one that was recruiting at the tournament. She was actually there looking at somebody else. And then I like beat a girl that was going to San Francisco, beat a girl that was going to Florida State. And she was there recruiting somebody else, but then saw me, took a video, sent it to Scott, and then she talked to my coach, and then I was out on an unofficial visit to Hawaii.
Wow.
This was before the recruiting age was like your junior year, which was crazy. As a coach, I like that much more, that kids get to be kids and they're not getting recruited out of like the 8th grade.
Okay. I don't really know how that works.
It was
okay.
back in the day. It was crazy. You had like 8th graders committing to like UCLA or wherever they were going. It was pretty gnarly. But this was before that. So was out on my visit. I was like, Hawaii had always been a dream school of mine, and so to get a scholarship to go play there on the beach side, and beach was going to be an official NCAA sport my freshman year. So that was part of the sell. It was like, okay, it's going to be official by my very first year. So that was kind of the reason why. And I had sent a bunch of emails to other schools, but the second Hawaii was like, hey, we'll take you. I was like, and I like begged my parents. I was like, please, because again, immigrant parents, they had the shortest leash on me ever, and they probably never thought that I was gonna move away for college. But it was again hard to say no.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you talk about your parents a lot. So like, who or what inspires you the most in this journey?
Yeah, I think part of it is my parents, right? They have the craziest story, which we probably don't have time for on this podcast.
We gotta share it. We gotta share it.
But basically, they're immigrants from Afghanistan. My dad, you know, came here with no money. His mattress was one that he found on the side of the road.
Wow.
Like, just the craziest story. And again, he did this all at 19. And they never really held that over our heads. I didn't really learn the full story of it until later. But everything that they sacrificed, everything that they went through to put my brothers and myself in the best position possible to succeed and follow our dreams was really, really awesome. My dad didn't miss a single game until I moved away to Hawaii.
Wow.
As at every club tournament, was at every reach tournament. For those of you that don't know, immigrant parents aren't necessarily the best with words. They're very much, you know,
action.
Yes, action based. And so, you know, that was his way of being like, I support you, I love you. Was showing up to every single game that I had ever played. And then my mom working as hard as she did, right? She would work from like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Just like one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And so having them support me throughout all of that was really, really cool. And then I think on the flip side, I think just, you know, just women in general, empowering women. And again, my mom being as hardworking as she is, cultural norms, being from a Muslim country, you know, a lot of times women are oppressed in situations. And so, you know, to have my mom be as independent as she is, to have my dad fight for my right to have an education. This is why I'm getting my master's, because he loves higher ed. And so, you know, yeah, just all of that. And I think taking advantage of the opportunities that I'm given here that aren't given everywhere else, I think is super, super important. So.
Yeah, and I think especially with what's happening with the world right now, like this is even more relevant. Like this is why like I really wanted to, you know, share your story, because and especially in beach volleyball where it's such a white dominant sport, like having people like you in it who is like, you know, a role model, like a super good player is so important for like the diversity of the sport.
I agree.
So have you had any mentors or role models who shaped your approach to the sport?
Yeah, I would say my first club coach I talked to you about, Andrew, he was very, very, very meticulous about the sport. So I was playing, so like basically I was involved in volleyball 7 days a week. So it was 5 days, it was, and this is like, I'm like 14 at this time, okay? So like 5 days a week was actual volleyball. We were also lifting. So I started Olympic lifting in like the 8th grade. Oh, wow. So I'm doing like clean, squats, all of that.
Okay.
And he would teach us like what everything was for. So like I knew what like your quadricep was, you know, in the 8th grade. So learning like the science behind all of it was really, really cool. So we were lifting, playing 5 days a week. After I had committed to play beach in college, I was still playing indoor 5 days a week, but doing beach like 2 days a week. He built a sand court in his backyard, which was crazy. So did that, and then one day for the 6th day would be rehab.
So like you were like prepped, like you knew like how to take care of yourself as like an elite athlete at 14.
Yeah, and then the 7th day was film.
Okay.
Yeah, so like again, I was there 7 days a week just getting after it, and people thought I was crazy because again I was 14 and I always used Kobe as the reference. I'm like, he's getting more reps and he's spending more time in the gym than anyone. I was like, no one thinks twice about him, but because I'm 14 and I'm a girl, like people think I'm doing too much, and so but I was like, it was necessary, and I think again I wouldn't have had the IQ that I have now if it wasn't for that. So yeah, definitely. And then as I've evolved in life and as I've gotten to different chapters in my life, it's been different mentors that have come along. Shout out to John Price, he was the director of women's volleyball. But like, again, if you ever told me that I would be, as a 28-year-old, would have a really good friend that's in his 60s, I would have been like, you're kidding. But like, honestly, JP is, I consider him a really good friend. Call him all the time. Someone that's just so wise and been a part of so many different programs has been really cool. Someone like Todd Rogers, being able to work for him for a year. And now just have him in my contacts, and he gives me advice whenever, you know. He texted me about the Davis job, so like it's, just being able to take every opportunity, build really good relationships and connections has been awesome. My old head coach at Hawaii, now having Dylan on the CSUN team, you know, it came full circle. And so, just having, and then having teammates now on the pro tour that are killing it and crushing it has been really, really cool to see. So, yeah, I think if you maintain good relationships and connections with people, so many doors open for you, which I think is, again, you shouldn't do it just for that, but it's a positive return when you treat people with just like kindness.
I mean, it's just kind of like a natural thing that happens. It's like, you know, the more you give, the more you receive kind of thing.
Exactly.
So I'm really curious about this question because on our team, you are the most competitive person I've ever met, and I know a lot of it you allude to like the way that you grew up. So do you mind sharing a little bit, like how that environment shaped you into the player that you are?
I think it started really young. Having brothers was really, really helpful. It would turn into like who could eat their meal the fastest, you know. So like it was like the most mundane things were competitive. I remember my brothers played baseball, so my dad would train like base running with them outside. And even as like a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid, like I was trying to keep up. I remember getting like, I would do like shagging for them in the outfield, and I would get like hit with a baseball, and you know, toughness was just like, I can't cry in front of a bunch of boys. So you know, you take a ground ball to the back, and you kind of just, you have to keep moving on after that. So that was really helpful. My brothers also didn't let me play games with them until I got good enough on my own.
Oh shit, okay.
So like ping pong, for example, they wouldn't let me play until I got good enough, so I had a ping pong table that folded in half. So I would hit the ball just to myself until I got good enough, and that was, you know, you learn to get good at things pretty quickly when you want to be involved. And then
Right.
I feel really fortunate that I had some friends growing up that when I was young that really committed to the same time. So like I had a best friend when I was in elementary school that started to do the volleyball thing with me, and we would pepper for every time we went to each other's house. We would just pepper outside, pepper it. Like we would just be touching the volleyball constantly. And then I think losing for 2 years really sucks, and I didn't want to do it anymore. And so I knew from a very young age that I always hated losing more than I like winning. I like winning. And for me, winning is always the standard, and it's what I expect, which is why I think I don't like love it. I love it. I love winning, but I don't know. Losing is just I don't expect to lose, and so when I lose, it's like the most frustrating thing in the entire world.
Yeah.
So I would like make myself sick physically. Like I would be so torn up about a loss that I would show up to practice on Monday like with a cold, because of like how much I like was
ruminated.
Yeah. I was like how upset I was. I would show up and my coach would be like, you literally gave yourself the sniffles, and I was like, right. So I had to, you know, learn to move on from it so that I could get back up and compete again. But yeah, I don't know. I just being in a competitive environment, losing a lot, I think really teaches you that it's super shitty. So I don't want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that I've talked to you about. I'm like trying to figure out how to. That's the $1 million coaching question. Whatever coach can figure out how to teach competitiveness, they're going to be a billionaire, because it's hard, especially when you're dealing from a collegiate perspective. You're dealing with athletes that have kind of already developed to a certain extent.
Right.
And you don't get to shape them at 9, 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out how to continue to harbor that kind of environment and teach them that competitiveness is hard.
Yeah. I think you did that a lot with our team, though. Like
I tried.
I feel like we got a lot more competitive compared to where we first were.
Yeah, I agree. And it definitely, it wasn't a competitive environment to begin with. And so just instilling a few little things. It was cool to see how bought in you all were with what I wanted. And I think that's why we saw the success that we did.
Yeah.
It's because you bought in.
Yeah, for sure. So when you were, you know, still like actively playing, what did a typical training week look like for you?
Yeah, so honestly, club was harder. So before I went away to college, club was harder for me than college was.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, it was the 7 days a week. So it was, and some days when I was on the 14s team when I was younger, I would practice with the 14s team and the 16s team. So I was getting 4 hours of practice in a day, along with private training, along with the weightlifting. And then eventually, once I started to shift towards beach, I still played indoor up until I graduated high school. So again, I was just doing 4+ hours a day. And then it was like more than that over the summers were crazy. I was spending like 7 hours. We would do the volleyball and the rehab and the weightlifting and the film all in one day, multiple times a week. And so yeah, I was just like fully. When people say it, like you eat, sleep, cry, volleyball, like, I literally did. It was all I did. I don't think I went to a single party in high school. Like I was just so. All of my friends played volleyball. They were all from the same club team. So I was just really committed to that. And then in college, I actually gained like a freshman 10 because it was just not, the workload wasn't as much as what I was used to. And so then I remember I came home over the summer and everyone's like, you out of shape? And I'm like, yeah. So I worked really hard and then tried not to lose it after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, in college it was lifting 3 times a week, conditioning twice a week, practicing 5 to 6 days a week. Kind of the standard stuff that you see in college now. But yeah, it was almost, and I kind of appreciated the approach that my club coach took because it was, I think it's a shock for some people to get to college.
Yeah.
And it's harder it's like one of the hardest things I've ever done, and it wasn't for me. So
because you're already used to it.
So I was grateful for that in that aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious, like with so much volleyball, like for such a long period of time, was there a point where you ever like burnt out?
Kind of. I think I don't know if it was burnout necessarily, but I remember getting to college, and so from a fitness standpoint, I was fine. But from a volleyball perspective, being in the Valley, I was a big fish in a small pond. And then I got to college, and I was like, oh, I'm a small fish in a big pond. And so I think I was really, really nervous my fall freshman year. I don't think I played the volleyball that I was capable of playing. I was the only freshman on the team. And so I think a lot of things were intimidating. And I remember after that fall semester, I was like, I'm not going to play. I was like, I'm not going to play. What did I work so hard for? I was like, oh my gosh, this is the craziest thing I've ever experienced. I'm like, do I even want to do this anymore? I only had that thought for like a day, and I was like, of course I was like, of course I want to do this, you know. And so I worked really, really hard over winter, and then I was like, I have to get better every single day, and I just have to win in the spring. That's how I'm going to get my playing time.
Yeah.
Thankfully, did that, made it work in the spring. My coach even told me, Dylan's dad, told me that he was thinking about redshirting me in the fall, and then in the spring, every day I just got better, and I was winning, and he was like, I can't not play her.
Yeah.
So and then ended up doing that, and then I think I wanted to play professionally when I was younger.
Okay.
And then getting to the college level and the success that I had a lot of success, which was great. But seeing the highest levels of play, I recognized for myself that I would have to work 2 times as hard as everyone else, which I wasn't necessarily opposed to, but that with the lack of money, with the fact that like I wasn't financially able to my parents weren't able to sponsor me to pursue this career, so I would have to work a job and I would have to work twice as hard to potentially just finish 9th and 7th on the AVP. So I think that part was, I had to have just a very honest conversation with myself. So I don't think that was necessarily burnout, but I knew that I wasn't going to be satisfied with that.
With not finishing top, you mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Was that a kind of painful realization, for someone who loves competing in volleyball so much?
Yeah. Yes and no. I think it was kind of freeing a little bit too.
Okay.
I think it was really disappointing to the coaches that had coached me when I was younger. I think they were frustrated that I didn't have the same goals and aspirations as I did when I was 14, but I was now a 19, 20-year-old girl, and things change. Going to Hawaii, I grew up, I learned more about myself, I realized that there was more to volleyball, and so I think that those were all really important things for me to learn.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, it was hard. But I mean, I'm still so immersed in the world that it's truly it's not that bad.
Okay, and for those of you who don't know, Ari holds the record of the winningest player who ever was in Hawaii. So that's super cool. Every time I introduce you, I'm like, that's my coach. That's Ari. That's what she did. So
love winning.
How did you handle the pressures of being a college athlete and thrive in it?
Yeah, I think part of that was something that I think the University of Hawaii did a really great job was instilling this mentality of gratitude. So it was challenging, but I was very lucky to be doing it. There were people that would kill for the opportunity that I had, right? There were so many kids that worked so hard and fell short. And so being in an opportunity where I got to do something so special and so unique, I think I was just grateful for it every single day. Being in a place like Hawaii, it's really easy to feel really grateful. You wake up and
every day.
you wake up and you're like, this is just amazing.
Yeah.
And then representing something that was bigger than ourselves, which I think you can relate to, being from Malaysia, competing for, we weren't just competing for the school, we were competing for the state, we were competing for the people.
Got it.
And so there was that, gratitude that we felt every day. And then again, I think it was someone from the Utah, I forget the NBA player that said it, but basically, and I've told you guys this story before, but pressure is trying to feed your family and trying to make sure the lights stay on, and competing in a sport, at the end of the day, we're just playing a little game. So to me, that's not pressure, and so I never really felt that. I always really liked it. I could sleep better at night knowing that I did everything that I could, or it was in my hands, which is probably why I liked beach more than indoor, because I had such an impact on the game. And I would feel super upset when I lost and know that that was on me. I need to get better and I need to improve, and I need to, if I don't want to feel this way again, I have to change things, I have to evolve, and I have to grow. So I don't know, I think being just grateful and knowing that everything was an opportunity to learn something new, to get better, I think made it pretty easy. I don't know. It was hard, and again, this is probably why I didn't have a lot of sympathy or sympathy or empathy. I don't know. I didn't feel bad for you guys all that often because I went through it myself. And while it was hard and it was challenging, it was so rewarding and it was so worth it. And maybe being on the back end of it, I can see that. But yeah, I mean, I cried in the locker room showers, you know, like it was definitely hard. Like in the moment, it felt harder than it was. But reflecting back on it, I'm glad that I went through those challenges. I'm glad that it was hard. You know, part of the challenges at Hawaii were feeling like I wasn't being put in the lineup where I wanted to be.
Oh, okay.
Right, so I played probably at the 3, 4, 5s for the majority of my career, and then finished at the 2s my senior year. And, you know, always felt like I deserved the opportunity to play higher in the lineup. So for me, that was like, okay, fine, you don't think I'll be there, I'll just win. I will just do whatever I can, you know. And so the year that I played with Carly Kahn, her and I started at the 5s, or 4s, and then 5s, and then back to the 4s, and we went into the NCAA tournament being 29-2, you know. And I had people talk to me after the fact and be like, hey, were you guys sandbagging your team? And I was like, not really, but again, that was out of my control.
Yeah.
And what I could control was winning.
Yeah.
So I was going to do everything in my power to do that.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely a challenge, but learning to control what you could was massive.
Yeah. I think it's so important to know. I feel like we hear that all the time, but it's like to actually, you know, discern what is in my control and what is not is like another thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So you talked about like, you know, like having challenges and all that. How do you stay motivated during those tough stretches?
Yeah, I think the motivation is internal for me. For me, it was always like giving up was worse. You know, not being able to do this anymore, not, you know, getting this opportunity was worse than the challenge ever was. And so I think for me, staying motivated wasn't, again, and that's another $1 million coaching question. How do you teach internal motivation? Because I've always had that. I've always felt internally motivated. I didn't really have a ton of moments of like, shoot, I don't know if I can do this. Like I had that that first fall of my freshman
that one
year.
Day.
Yeah, that one day I'm like, I don't know. And then, you know, I kind of, for me it was, okay, I don't know if I can do this, but let me try. And that's always what the motivation was like, I need to see how good I can be. I need to see how good I can get. And it's, again, when you put in that many hours, you put in that much time, you put in that much of your parents' money into something, it's, you know, you're doing yourself a disservice by not giving it all you got.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was always the motivation. It was like, I have to know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to like sleep at night unless I know, you know, how good I could possibly be.
Yeah.
And so I think that was just what kept me motivated.
Yeah, that's so good. Because I think a lot of people, they don't even want to go there because they're afraid that if they fail, then it's like, oh, this is it.
Yeah, and again, there's always someone better than you.
Yeah.
There's always going to be someone better than you, and I knew that from a young age, but that still didn't want to stop myself from seeing how close I could get to the best player that I knew.
Right.
Right? Like how, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's a hard pill for people to swallow, that there's someone out there that's better than you. You know, I think that's hard to, because then you're like, well, what am I working towards? You know, but you're working towards being one of the best.
Yeah.
Like how good can you...
Best version of yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's funny because I feel like that mindset maybe comes naturally to us, but to think that for people that's a tough pill to swallow, it's kind of funny to me.
Yeah.
So what has been the toughest challenge that you had to face, and what did it teach you?
I think honestly moving away from my family was really hard. You know, again, immigrant parents, super short lease. I had a very strict childhood, very strict upbringing. You know, even going to like the movie theater when I was like 16, I could drive myself there, but my dad still went and was like in the 2 rows behind me, like, you know what I mean, just to make sure. And in hindsight, it was all out of love. My parents just wanted to make sure that I was safe, and they wanted to make sure that I was okay.
Yeah.
And so while I had moments of not liking it when I was in it, but I really appreciated it after the fact. But yeah, I wasn't very independent, you know. I relied on my parents for a lot, and so moving 3,000 miles away and figuring out how to feed myself, how to do my own laundry, how to pay bills, and on top of trying to excel in the classroom and as a student athlete was a lot. But again, I am so grateful that I went through that, because again, I don't think I like knew who I was until until I got to college. Like until I went to college, I was just a sum of everyone around me. You know, my music taste was like partially my brother's, partially my coach. You know what I mean? Like it was just, I felt like I was just the sum of the people around me, and I wasn't really who I was. And then getting to college, I feel like I really got to like learn who I was, learn my interests, learn my own music taste. You know, I went through different phases of friends, you know, and then ultimately finding, you know, my best friends and the people that I want to surround myself with was massive. And so, yeah, I think it was really, really hard, and I had moments where I got homesick and I felt lonely, but I think it was really, really important because one, you feel more grateful for your family, you feel way more grateful for home, and so it was, you know, I feel like I took it for granted for a while, so then being able to appreciate them to that capacity was great, but then again, also learning just more about myself was so like freeing.
Yeah, no, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
So now I want to go into your coaching experiences.
Perfect.
So how and why did you get into coaching?
So I actually got into coaching while I was still in club. I helped pay for the club fees by coaching.
Okay.
So I started coaching very, very young. I think I was like on our 14s team coaching our 12s team or something like that.
Wow.
And so part of that was to pay for club fees, but part of that was because my coach was a big believer that if you can coach it, it means you understand it better, which makes your own volleyball better or your own skill set for whatever sport you're playing better. And so that was part of his rationale behind why he wanted me to start coaching, so that I could spot out, you know, someone dropping their elbow. I could spot those different things. And so that really started the coaching. And then, yeah, I don't know, in college I switched my major to secondary education, so to teach. And for me, teaching and coaching were kind of very, very similar. And I always knew I wanted to do that in some capacity. And then, yeah, the opportunity kind of presented itself after I graduated from Hawaii to step into that volunteer position, and the rest is kind of history from there. And then COVID happened, and I was having like a quarter-life crisis. I had just finished college. I was no longer a student athlete. The world was shut down, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. I got my certification in personal training, because I was like, maybe I just go that route, and like maybe I stop coaching. And then I honestly kind of had a bad teaching experience, because you have to do a semester of student teaching. And so I did that at a high school, and I didn't have the best experience, so I think I was burnt out on teaching for a little bit, but coaching still felt right, and then couldn't coach, so I was like, maybe I'll be a coach for personal training. And then I knew Todd Rogers, his graduate assistant, was leaving, and I was like, I think that position's gonna be open, let me just send him an email just in case. And he responded, and he was like, yeah. And then I almost said no, and then so glad I didn't say no, that would have been crazy. But yeah, I ended up saying yes to Todd, and then that just opened the door to CSUN, and then that opened the door to Davis, and then at that point I was like, you know, I should do this. I should be doing this.
Okay,
you know, like,
so at this point you feel like it's your calling.
Yeah.
Okay.
I should do this.
I think she should stay. Yeah. So what's the biggest difference between being a coach versus a player?
Yeah, I mean, just there's such a lack of control in what I can do. You know, I can say something so many times. I have to reword it. I have to rephrase it. I have to give it to you guys in 7 different ways, hoping that, you know, a couple of people will get it in each way. And so I can't do it for you guys, which is just the biggest piece between coaching and playing. But it's still, I still feel that competitiveness. It's different. Like I never felt nervous as a player. Like I would get antsy and excited, but I never really felt nervous. Being on this, I'm nervous. Like it'll get close, right? It's like 13-13 in the third, and I'm like, my heart rate's up. I'm like sweating, and I know I'm like pretty chill on the sidelines, but like and again, it's because I can't do anything. Like I can give you guys the information, I can tell you who to serve, what shot to hit, but like I can't actually do it for you. So it's like a nervousness that I've never felt before, which is really cool. You know, it's a new challenge. It's a new thing to try to like overcome. But yeah, it's the biggest difference. I guess I didn't feel nervous as a player. I was always confident in my own ability. And I'm confident in what I'm teaching you guys, and I'm confident in what you guys are learning. But again, I can't physically do it for you. So it's hard.
Just kind of letting go, I think it's probably the hardest part.
Okay, fly, birdie, fly, you know, let's see what you can do.
Yeah. How do you adapt your coaching style to different types of players?
Yeah, I think I learned that. That's something that I learned from being a player. Beach, again, so unique. You're playing with one other person, and each person that I played with, my freshman year, I had 6 different partners. And I got called, they called me O negative because they felt like I could play with everybody.
Like the blood type?
Yeah, it's the universal donor, so I could play with everyone, and so I thought, that my success was partially dependent on how my partner was playing. And so whatever I needed to do to get the best result out of my partner was what I was going to do.
Yeah.
There was no ego involved. There was no, it was just really easy for me to understand that.
Yeah.
That like, if my partner's playing their best, and again, I'm confident in my own ability, I'm going to play pretty good most of the time. If I'm playing pretty good and they're playing well, we're going to win. Like that was just the recipe for success. So it was easy for me to, if my partner needed me to be a cheerleader, I would do that. You're so good at volleyball. You can hit 10-foot line. You're so good. I could do that. I could be a mini coach if they needed, hey, take one step to your left when you're, anything like that, whatever they needed. If they needed me to be quiet and we just were like serious, could do that.
Yeah.
If they needed me to be just like a burst of fiery energy, again, whatever someone needed, I was happy to do, if that meant that they were going to play their best. And so taking that from the playing perspective, turning that into coaching, it's so easy to tell what specific players need. Some players really need the compliment sandwich. They can't handle, negative feedback, which again, part of my coaching philosophy is there's no negative or positive. It's just feedback. It's just information.
Like you always say, don't take things personally.
Don't take things personally. It's just information. But as much as I can say that and as much as I can try to instill that in all of you, doesn't always mean that it works. So again, there are certain people that I have to be tougher with. Certain people I have to be more analytical with. And I think having so much experience in the sport has really, really helped. And being that type of player, I was that way again for my freshman year. I was able to. Again, maybe that's just a natural skill set that I've acquired, but being able, and I think it's helped a ton in my coaching career, and I think that's why I have the relationships that I have with student athletes, is because it's knowing them on a deeper level, it's knowing them a little bit more on a personal level to understand what they really need.
Yeah. What's one common mistake you see young players make, and how can they avoid it?
I was thinking about this. Part of me thinks it's just cutting corners.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like so much of the time, I spend so much time talking to you guys about decision making, and I think while a point is a point, don't get me wrong, which however you score that point, I am stoked on it, good, bad, ugly. I think in the formative years, I'm seeing people use bad habits and use bad technique to get the instant gratification of that point in that moment, and it's hindering their overall development.
Okay, so like not looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah. I don't need you to win that game. I need you to get, again, at the juniors level, you're not competing for an NCAA championship. The natty is not on the line. So as a youth player and as a younger player, don't cut corners and don't just try to win games and score points. Like you need to do it the right way, and you need to build your IQ, and you need to do it, good decision making in mind, because it's what makes all the difference at the collegiate level.
Okay.
It's the decision making, right? The talent, it's not that much of a drop off in talent, but it is that decision making, it is that discipline, it is that IQ that's making the difference. And I think at the youth level, a lot of kids are foregoing that because they want to see instant success.
But at the youth level, like, how would they know what is the right decision? Or like, because like you said, they're doing the short, and it's like you're scoring points, so it's like, I'm winning.
Yeah.
How do they know that's right or wrong?
So for me, when I was at that age, I was always looking at professional athletes.
Okay.
So I was always watching AVP, FIVB, what are they doing at the highest level? They're not hitting short shots at the highest level, you know what I mean? So it's like, that for me, that was always the goal, is I didn't care about the success that I had in that moment when I was younger.
Okay.
I wanted to be the best at the highest level. And so that was always the goal. So that's why I think losing for 2 years, I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
I lost for 2 years, but my overall volleyball is better now. So I think, no shortcuts.
No shortcuts. So I guess this kind of leads into the next question. What recruiting advice would you offer to, aspiring players who want to play at the, collegiate level or higher?
Yeah, I think definitely putting in the time and the work. If you want to compete at the highest level, you have to be willing to sacrifice some things. You have to be willing to put in more time than the people around you. And then the other piece is email away. I know you send them 1,000 emails. We get bombarded. You just got to keep sending them. I know it's kind of annoying, and I might feel like, you're getting like ghosted, but I promise it's just because there's an influx of emails. And then the other thing for me is something that I always look for is just being hardworking.
Yeah.
I think that, again, you see so many talented people, they just don't want to work hard enough. And I think people like that are so limited.
Yeah.
And so, even if you're someone that's not winning a ton of games, but you're working incredibly hard, I can see that when I'm when I'm going and I'm watching and I'm seeing the hustle and I'm seeing the effort.
Yeah.
Massive.
Okay.
I care more about that than I do the end of the result of the play.
Yeah, because if you have that like as your base, like you can always add on to that.
100%. You take a talented athlete though that's lazy, they're only going to be so good.
Yeah, they cap themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so you took our team from like nothing to, we had our winningest season ever. We got we made the semifinals of the Big West. Like, I think that's pretty cool in just 3 years.
Yeah.
How do you build a team from ground up, especially with limited resources?
Yeah, what's 100% bringing the right kids in. I think even from when you stepped foot on campus, Tasha was a huge part of the success of the program. She is like the ideal, I say this to everyone, she's literally like the ideal coach's kid. Like, she came in just saying, yes, coach, did what I asked, worked incredibly hard, like kept her head down. And so it really was bringing in kids like you that wanted to put in that effort and wanted to put in that work. And then two, I think it really was transitioning to making things more competitive.
Yeah.
I think a bigger roster size 100% helped because now you weren't just guaranteed playing time, and so that added in its own level of competitiveness.
Yeah.
And then rewarding performance. You weren't just going to play because everyone gets a turn. You have to earn this. You have to win. You have to do your part here.
Yeah.
And so I think all of that combined helped to grow the program. But yeah, bringing in. I know people always say this, but it really is recruiting and bringing in the right student athlete, the type of athlete that's going to be bought into what your formula is.
Yeah.
And so the way that you guys bought in was awesome. And I think by that third year, by this last year, you guys were so self-sufficient,
Yeah.
They were getting mad at each other more than I was. Like, I had to get on them in those first couple of years of like, hey, this is not good enough. This is not enough to succeed, I'm glad that we played UCLA one year because I think one technical timeout was like 18-3 in one of the pairs, and I'm like, I don't know what I tried to tell you guys that the little things were going to matter and they were going to be important, and yes, UCLA was doing it. They were doing all the little things perfectly, and that's why they were seeing the success that they had. And so, I think for you guys to see that and be like, okay, she's not just like talking out of her butt here, like she, she knows what she's saying. I think was really, really helpful, and I think. A lot of coaching and building trust is, for better or for worse, being right.
What do you mean?
Like, I feel like you guys have heard me say, like, if you've asked me a question and I didn't see it, I'll say, I don't know. Like, I didn't see it, I didn't. Yeah. I'm not going to just give you an answer that I don't know. And so for me, the right information is really, really important, and it helps build trust. Like, I know that in matches, I've told you guys to do something and then it immediately worked. That's instant trust right there, right? Like, hey, the high line is open, you hit a high line and it was successful. Like, you're immediately like, you know what I mean? So I think that was really, really important too, was, I don't know, I was just right. I was right enough for you guys to be like, okay, this makes sense. And so, I don't know, I think some coaches sometimes just talk to talk, but for me, that's never good enough. It has to be correct in order to build the trust between player coach. And I think, I think I established that pretty early on, so it was easy for you guys to be bought in.
Yeah, I know you always talk about like, trying to walk the line of like being like compassionate, I guess, and like also strict at the same time. How do you find that balance? Yeah,
I think it's funny because I've been asked now transitioning to Davis, like what my coaching style is, and like if I yell and if I scream, and I don't. Like, I don't yell. I don't, don't really necessarily like run you guys into the ground either. But I think part of it is instilling a belief in you guys and building that confidence for you guys to know that you can do it. And I think once you guys realized that you could do it when you weren't doing it, it was pretty upsetting, and it's disappointing.
Yeah.
But I don't know that a lot of you had someone believe in you guys in that way. I knew you guys could do it. And that's always where like my foundation is. I know you guys, I would never ask you guys to do something that I didn't think you were capable of doing. And so I think in drills and in competition and doing things that sets you guys up for success, it builds up your confidence. And then now, when I'm asking you to do it, you guys have already seen yourselves succeed. So when you're not doing it at that level anymore, that's when the disappointment factor comes in. And again, I think it's a trust thing. I think you guys trusted that when I said something wasn't good enough, you guys were like, okay, this wasn't.
Yeah.
You're like, you're right, this isn't good enough.
Yeah.
And so I think, I don't think I needed to yell and scream. I think it was, this is our standard, this is our expectation.
Yeah.
When you guys fall short, I'll let you know. And that's on you. Again, there's only so much that I can do to help you guys succeed. If you don't want to put in the effort, you don't want to show up with your brains on, great. I will get you guys to as good as you can be if that's what you want to put into it.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of scared you guys a little bit too. You're just like, no, we want to get better. We want to succeed. And I think pointing that out when you guys weren't. But again, part of it is being right. I can't point it out and be wrong.
Yeah.
Because you're just losing credibility in that situation, which is why I wasn't on you guys all the time, because it matters. It depends on like, why is this drill not looking right? Why is this drill breaking down? Is it for a lack of effort? Is it for, so I had to assess all of that. There's so much assessing going on before speaking in order to make sure that I'm correct about my assessment.
I see.
To be able to fix it. Because if I just jumped the gun every time, I would be wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think taking that time to really assess why a drill was breaking down, why effort levels were low, why there was a lack of motivation, the reasoning behind all of it really makes a difference.
Yeah. I think you kind of touched on this already, but like, how do you foster a positive and competitive team culture?
Yeah, I think it's really important to root for each other's success. I think that's part of it. When you're getting better, I'm getting better. And when we're getting better, she's getting better. And so I think that's where the competitive and positiveness comes into play. And also it's part of being on a team.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be an individual sport athlete, go do something else. Go swim, go run, but you're on a team for a reason. Like you have to be supportive of your teammates. You have to, again, their success is your success.
Yeah.
Right? I held the individual record win at Hawaii, but that meant nothing if my teammates weren't competing and my teammates weren't succeeding.
Right.
So as good as it felt maybe when I won my own match, if we didn't win as a school, that still sucked. You know what I mean? Like, again, maybe it didn't feel as bad if I was the one that lost, but it definitely stings, like, and so I think being in that atmosphere where, like, if you succeed, I succeed, really helps foster competitiveness and a positive environment.
Yeah, and especially with, like, the beach volleyball format, it's so unique.
So unique.
So it's, like, individual, but, like, team at the same time, and then, like, it's like individual you, and then team with your partner, and then team with the big team.
Yeah, and
there's so many layers to it.
And again, it's not going to be perfect every day. I say this all the time, getting 20 plus girls to like each other every day is impossible. It's just not going to happen. But part of growing up, and that's what being a student athlete, collegiate student athlete is you got to grow up.
Yeah.
And it's bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Just because you're having a bad day, you can't make it everyone's problem. That's not fair. That's not what being on a team is about. And if you've built good relationships and you've built good connections, when you're having a bad day, your teammates are there to lift you up.
Yeah.
They're there to help you in those moments. But if you're someone that makes it everyone else's problems, it's going to be hard to get your teammates to support you and rally behind you in those moments. And so that's part of the lesson too, is, hey, just because you're having a bad day, you can't make it everyone else's problem.
Yeah. And like on the outside, you're the head coach, you're sitting at the benches with us and all that, but I know that a lot of things also happen behind closed doors, like in the office. Like, you're almost like a therapist, I would say, a lot of times. So how do you have those tough conversations with girls?
It's so easy to have tough conversations when there's respect, when there is trust, right? I think at the core of my coaching philosophy was I wanted to see you guys succeed. And I think you guys trusted that, and I think you guys believed that. And so it made every tough conversation really easy to have. Not easy to have, but it was, you know,
The good intention was
good
there.
intentions. I wasn't lying. You
Yeah.
know, there was we're not beating around the bush here. And so I think that's what makes the hard. I think if you're not being honest, you're not being, you know, transparent with your intentions, yeah, people are going to call you out and it's going to feel tough. But like from my perspective, again, I always wanted to be as transparent as possible. I want to give you guys all the tools necessary to succeed, and not giving you guys transparency was going to hinder that.
Yeah.
And then I think part of the trust part was what you guys said to me stayed with me.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't going to tell Kinley what you said about Kinley. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that just, you're losing trust, you're losing respect at that moment. And so I think building that, you know, hey, this is a closed door conversation, even though I didn't have a door. Having a closed...
She totally deserved one. She didn't get one. It's
Fine.
okay. It's okay, CSUN, whatever.
Davis is giving me a door.
That's why she's transferring.
But yeah, I think, you know, just what stays between you and I stays between you and I really helped to foster that and to have those hard conversations. And I don't know, I think it's worth it. We're not getting anywhere if I just sugarcoat it. We're not, you know, it's not helping you to sugarcoat anything, right? You want to get better. You want to succeed. You want to be the highest level. You want to compete at the highest level that you can. And me not telling you the truth, or me not, you know, giving you all the tools necessary, talking about all your weaknesses isn't going to help you. You know, we got to talk about it. We have to hone your strengths and then really get better where, you know, where you're struggling.
Yeah. See, this is why. This is why, man. Okay, now I want to like pivot a little bit to something more lighthearted. So I want to ask you, what's the most memorable match that you've played?
Ooh, most memorable match. There's been a few. Well, it's really ironic because I remember the losses way more.
There's so few of them.
I know, but they're just like ingrained in my head. And I'm like, I can't believe this just happened. Maybe one of the coolest ones was against Sarah Sponsel and Lily Justine against UCLA. So it was me and Julia Scholes at the twos. And it was our first round against UCLA. And won the first set. And this one's always really funny because Sarah, she's a fantastic athlete, was holding on to the ball a little longer than I thought was acceptable. And so I, like 0-0, beginning of the match, the first ball she set, I immediately went over to the ref and I was like, hey, like how long? And again, I was as sweet as I possibly could be. I'm like, hey, how long is she allowed to hold on to that ball? And he said it to me. He's like, that's as long as she can hold on to it. And I'm like, okay, great. And so then it happened a couple times, and he's like, no, it's still the same. Second set, I think we're up, I want to say it's like 19-17. The score is 19-17. I hit a high line ball. The pulling blocker dug it, but she passed it really, really tight. Sarah turned and faced and then caught it and set it, and her partner bounced the ball. But like it happened, I looked over, and the ref blew the whistle and called it a lift. And so again, going from 20-17 versus 18-19 is massive in that type of a situation, in that environment. And so I don't know, getting the call kind of when I needed it, because I put the work in from 0-0 was really, really cool to see. And then I think we ended up losing to UCLA, but it came down to it was like 19-17 in the third set at our ones. Yeah, the duel was tied at 2-2, and I think UCLA had won that national championship. After they played us, they beat everyone else 3-0. So we were like the hardest. They had to fight in order to win that championship. So I think that was pretty cool. I mean, it sucked losing, but
How is it like? I mean, I'm always so fascinated, listening to all your stories about playing at the highest level. How is it like being at the national championships, being at Alabama? Is that where you competed? Okay, how's that environment like?
It's crazy. And something again that I think the University of Hawaii did really, really well was it is a limited number of people that get to compete for national championships. That even competing at the Division I level, not everyone's competing for a national championship. And so for us, it was like there's no reason to be nervous at this point. This is what we've worked so hard for. Enjoy it. Enjoy the moment, and that's how I looked at the NCAA tournament. I'm like, this is the coolest thing I'm ever gonna do. Maybe we'll see. But this is one of the at that moment and in that when I was experiencing it, it's the coolest thing I've ever done. So it was really important to just be so grateful for that opportunity and enjoy it and put it all out there. Like it was, that was all the hard work. That was all what it was worth, or all that it was for. So it was just cool. I have no other, like, it was hard, but it was just cool. Like, it was just the coolest thing to do.
And you always preach that to us too, because you see us getting like stressed.
Oh, you get so in your head. I'm like, there's no point. Like, it's not going to help you. It's not going to make you better. But enjoying the ride and taking advantage of the opportunity. It always felt better to sleep at night knowing that I gave it all that I got. So
yeah. Which venue stands out the most in your career competing?
Ooh. Okay. Selfishly, playing on the beach in Hawaii is like the coolest thing ever, And so being able to do that for 4 years, don't get me wrong, facilities that have courts on campus are really cool, right? Like Cal Poly's.
Ooh, hold on. The battery is like dying.
Oh, okay.
Let me just switch it really quick.
No, go for it.
We're back. Okay, so you were talking about the venue, Hawaii?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the coolest thing. You had the rainbows, you had the palm trees. And again, don't get me wrong, now there's more facilities on campuses that are very, very nice. Mm-hmm. Cal Poly has an incredible venue, which is really, really awesome. And that's cool to see, and I love that, more programs are investing in their beach programs, which is great. Nothing really beats competing on the beach. Even in Alabama, such a cool environment, just, seeing it from the hotel, just seeing all the courts, the whole setup, it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Is there, what is one team, like past or present or whatever, that you would love to play against, and why?
That's a good question. I think from when I was competing at Hawaii, I think competing against... Okay, you know what? Actually, I would really, this would never happen, but I would be really curious to see how the team that I had when I was competing at Hawaii would do against teams now. Because that's always a question, right? It's like, how has the sport evolved? How is it like, is the level of play at the top higher than what it was before, right? But then you're looking at someone like, people try to say that, but then you look at like Sarah Hughes and Kelly Clays, and I'm like, they're at the top of like what they're doing. You're looking at Julia Scholes, she's at the top of what she's doing. So it's hard to like tell.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think it'd be really cool to like take, my 2018, or what year did we finish third? We finished, I think that was my 2017 year, okay? Take my 2017 team and compete against the current Hawaii team, or like take that 2017 team and compete against the current UCLA team or USC team. I think that would be really, really cool.
Yeah. I wonder if AI could like
you know what I mean?
Generate a simulated match or something. That would actually Yeah,
that's what because again, there's no one like now, but like I'm always so curious to see how our level at that time would compare to almost 10 years later.
What do you think?
I think we'd do well. Like in my head, I think it'd be competitive, and I think it would be fun. I do think athletes have gotten better, but the biggest thing that I've seen in the NCAA is the depth has gotten better.
What does depth mean?
So like, when I was competing, it was really only like 6 teams that were like pretty good. Like even the 7th and 8th, because before the NCAA tournament was an 8-team tournament. Now it's 16, so they doubled it. But before it was only 8 teams that made it.
Oh, okay.
So it was only 8 teams that made it. 6 teams could compete, and then like the 7th and 8th team that got there, you always knew that was like an easy win.
Oh, okay.
But like now, the 7th and 8th team in the country, fantastic.
Yeah.
The 8 to like 18.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
You're seeing more upsets. You're seeing more.
Totally.
You didn't really see that all the time because the sport was still growing.
Yeah.
So I think it's grown to the point now where these programs, it's getting better. The top 20 is awesome to see. You know. But yeah, I think before, it was really only the top that was really that good.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, because the sport is just like, it's exploding. Like every year, it's just so many people are getting into it.
Yeah.
So one thing that I respect about you so much is how you balance everything in your life. Like you're a graduate student, you're a head coach, you're a daughter, a girlfriend, like a pet owner, pet mama. How do you balance all that in your life?
Yeah, I think it's important to give 100% to the things that you're doing in the moment. you know. If I'm having issues with family, that's after I coach, you know. And if I had a tough day coaching, that's after I finish class. So I think being incredibly present for the things that I'm doing, hard to do. And I'm not perfect at it, but I think that's the best way to kind of find that balance. And I think, you know, part of that is having good support systems, you know, having a partner that's so incredibly supportive of everything I'm doing. He's literally, shout out to Daniel, he's literally like the nicest person, sweetest person I've ever met, and like could only ever say, you know, the most positive things about him. But to have someone like that in your corner makes it really easy. He's been so supportive of me moving to Davis and, you know, taking that opportunity. And he might not even be able to go, so we might have to do, you know, the long distance thing. But again, he's like, go chase your dreams, go do your thing.
That's
Having
awesome.
my parents do that as well.
Yeah.
Again, I got lucky with the best animals in the world.
Oh,
Shout out Maluma. He's the cutest dog in the whole world, and I'm so obsessed with him. But yeah, I don't know. It's putting the right things in your life. It's I'm doing a lot of things, but I'm enjoying it. I love that I'm trying to get my master's degree. I love that I'm coaching, you know. All of those things it's a lot, but they're all really positive influences in my life.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the time management just comes with the territory. And if I want to succeed at all of it, I gotta put in the discipline to make sure that I'm giving each thing 100%.
Yeah. Are you like a schedule type of person?
No. Which is crazy. I know. I'm like not. So Tasha writes everything down. I'm like not a journaler. I like hardly put things in a calendar, which is really bad, and I should do that a little bit more often. But not really. I don't know.
You just kind of have it all in the back of your mind. Like, that's a gift. That's a gift.
I don't know. It's just kind of in the brain, you know, what I got to do. And so, yeah, I mean, I know what my schedule is. And I stick to my schedule, which is, I think, what helps. And why I don't necessarily need to write it down is I'm definitely a creature of habit. So, like, I'm very repetitive. I do things over and over and over again. Even with food, it's like, you know, I eat a lot of the same meals. And so it kind of just becomes, like, habit at that point.
How do you, like, with someone who is, like, you're such a disciplined person, but how do you still make time for, like, you know, spontaneous events or, like, family gatherings, which, you know, often takes a lot of time?
Yeah. Planning it out in advance is helpful. I've had to teach my family that because they like to just be like, come over for dinner tonight. And I'm like, I already have plans.
And especially with, like, you know, immigrant families. I get it.
They don't get it. But I've had to, you know, I'm in therapy just to, you know, be able to give myself tools to cope with different things. And so that's another aspect of it that I think is great. I think therapy is awesome. Again, I'm not someone that has a ton of like symptoms necessarily, but it's still been really helpful in organizing my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions. So I think definitely an advocate for that.
Not a betterhelp.com.
Yeah, therapy's great. And yeah, I think just learning boundaries and saying yes and saying no. And then I honestly, this is going to sound really crazy, I let myself be lazy when I can. Love a good brain rot, love a good couch potato moment. If there are days where I can just chill and not do anything, I'll do it. Like, and I've had to really unwork the mechanisms in my brain that have told me that that's being unproductive.
Yeah.
Because it might feel that way, but it's so important to feel full to do everything else. Yeah. And so my brother has actually said that I am the laziest, hardest working person that he knows. Because when I'm in my lazy modes, like I am lazy. Like I'll be hanging out with my brothers and I am thirsty. I won't get up until the second my brother gets up, I'm like, hey, can you give me water? And he's like, dude, you just weren't gonna drink water? And I was like, maybe not. I mean, I knew you were gonna get up, but like again, I take lazy to the extreme, but it's helpful. It helps me, you know.
You just go 100% in everything.
Exactly, 100% lazy too, and I think it's great. I love it.
Yeah. Do you like give yourself like one lazy day in a week, or how does that work?
Depends on how it structures itself, you know. And being in season is hard. Not a lot of lazy days there.
Yeah.
So like right as it ends, I give myself a few lazy days, you know, at the end of season, and then it kind of just depends on how my schedule plays out. Sometimes I go a few weeks on end without a lazy day, and then sometimes it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday if I can, you know, take advantage of it while I can. And then again, planning things ahead of time. When I went to Yosemite, that was something that I had to plan ahead of time, knowing my schedule and all that stuff. So, just planning. It doesn't foster the most spontaneous of lifestyles, but still finding moments where, so like even when I plan a trip, I try to be a little, I'm not like, this is my itinerary, 8 a.m. do this.
Oh my God.
I don't do that. Like, we went to Yosemite and we were like, we'll feel it out.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We like went to the Welcome Center and we're like, what should we do?
Yeah.
And then we did that. And so I'm pretty chill when it comes to that kind of thing. But yeah, I can't be like, I can't go somewhere at the drop of a hat, but I can plan it out.
Yeah.
And it's still fun and rewarding.
Yeah, so like kind of a structure, but then still like going with the flow of it.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
Cool. I like that. So one thing that I've always been curious about, so you are doing your graduate studies in history, which
Yes.
is not something that I don't really hear a lot of people doing their graduate studies in history. So
Yeah.
why history? Why did you choose that?
Yeah, so a couple reasons. I always loved history. For me, it's one big story. I'm a big reader. I love reading books. History is literally one big story. Like, that's how you look at it, right? People look at history and it's like, oh, you have to memorize dates and times and things. And it's like, not really. Once you learn the story, it's easy to tell and it's easy to understand. So I've always really appreciated that aspect of history. The other aspect was with getting my degree in secondary education, there weren't a lot of master's programs that I could go into. So history was one of them. And if you get your master's in a single subject, you can actually be a junior college professor.
Oh, okay.
So that's why that was part of the decision making was, okay, you know, kind of giving myself the plan B with there's some instability in job security in the coaching world. And so my plan B was like, okay, if the Division I thing ever stops working out, I can try to be a junior college professor and maybe coach at the junior college level.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it's kind of always just like my plan B,
Yeah.
just in case.
I see. What type of history do you like?
Honestly, everything that I've been learning has been really, really cool. The last paper that I wrote was on eugenics and forced sterilization in California, which is crazy. I was thinking about doing my final culminating project on that.
Wait, you're still in school? So are you going to do it at Davis or what?
I'm trying to figure it out. I have no idea. I don't know. It depends on what credits are going to transfer.
Okay.
I just emailed a couple of my professors to see what they advise doing. So we'll see. I don't know. TBD.
How long more do you have?
Technically, I would have graduated fall of 2026.
Okay.
So I would have had 3 more semesters left.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I even forgot about that. I was
Yeah.
like, shit, she's still studying.
Yeah. So, but 3 of those courses, I think I have to take 5 courses. 1 would be culminating. 3 could be TA and internships, and I only had 1 research class left. So I'm trying to see if I can do it remotely.
Oh, so coach at Davis, but still be a CSUN student?
Yeah.
Oh.
We'll see.
Okay.
I don't know if they're going to let me do that. I'm hoping they'll let me do it, but we'll see. But yeah, that was probably going to be what I would write my culminating paper on.
Wait, say it one more time,
It's
the title?
eugenics and forced sterilization in California.
Ooh, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so basically, eugenics was really popular in the 1900s with pure breeding and trying to breed the best possible race and genetics, whatever. And it saw popularity in the United States. And then California specifically was one of the biggest states that had passed forced sterilization laws. And so a lot
Forced sterilization.
So it was at mental health hospitals, if you were deemed a moron based on IQ and stuff like that, they would sterilize that patient. And
my God.
you didn't even need the patient's consent.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then it turned into kind of doing that in the prison system. And then it turned into, Latino women were disproportionately affected by that. And it started kind of with anti-immigration. So it was anti-immigration against Chinese immigrants and then Japanese immigrants and then Mexican immigrants. And there were different policies that were put in place that kind of set it up to pass these sterilization laws. And so, yeah, super gnarly. It turned into making women decide to be sterilized post-birth. So you can't even imagine the hormones and what's going on,
Yeah.
And so basically coercing women into being sterilized.
And I'm assuming minority groups.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which is crazy. And not understanding English or not understanding the consequences.
Yeah.
All of that was a factor as well.
Wow.
And then, they were doing that in prison systems as well. So yeah, it's gnarly to learn about.
Yeah. You obviously have a lot of extensive knowledge about all that stuff. How do you see that playing out, with the political climate now, especially.
Exactly. It's history repeats itself. People say that for a reason. You know, we've seen the real life effects and results of untapped power. So yeah, it's scary. We don't want to revert. We don't want to go back to, you know, the oppression that groups of people have had to face.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so much of every course that I've taken so far, at the end of the class, we're like, and that's how that relates to today. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, even with the Palisades fire, one of my professors actually had us read something, because the Palisades experience fires pretty often. And so, again, we read through like the historical trajectory of like why that continues to happen and stuff like that. So it's again, there's so many things that you can learn from past historical events that we're seeing today.
Okay, so like, I guess, you know, it's one thing like knowing what's happening, but I think the second question, at least for me personally, is like, what can we do? Because so often in these times we feel so helpless.
Yeah, you gotta vote.
Okay, I'm not American, but Americans make the right choice.
And it's not even every 4 years. It's primaries. It's the midterm elections. It's really doing your research at the local level. It's really important to do things like that, and to learn about it. You hear so many people say they don't want to be political, and for me, that's always been a privilege to not feel like you need to be political and to not have a stance on things. Is a privilege, and not everyone has that. And so, yeah, I think educating yourself, voting, standing up for what you believe in, all of that. It might not always feel really helpful, but it is. It's, you know, it's making an impact. You know, the protest, everything that's going on is making an impact. We're gonna read about this in 30 years.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so enough about the past. Let's talk about the future.
Yes.
What are your goals for the next few years as a coach?
Yeah, I think immediately helping to bring consistency and stability to the Davis program for the next few years. You know, I think there's a lot of potential within that program. It's had 3 different coaches in 3 different years, and they've still been decently successful. And so I think to have, you know, a coach there for some time to help them really grow, and you know, I think I'm different from what they've had in the past. So I'm excited to see how the student athletes respond to that, how they take to it. They seem really excited so far, which I'm really grateful
you've
for.
talked to them?
Yeah,
Nice.
which is great. Okay. I was worried that they were gonna like be disappointed or something. I know, but it was really great. They were really sweet. So I'm really looking forward to just, you know, seeing where I can take the Davis program.
When are you going there?
My first day is July 1st.
Oh, that's like.
I'm gonna recruit a ton in July in SoCal, and then I'll probably move up there by the end of July, beginning of August.
Ooh, okay. So does the school provide you like your housing and everything? Or?
No, I'll have to find housing. They'll help me move essentially, but that'll be on my own.
Okay, cool. That's exciting. So how do you see the sport of beach volleyball evolving in like the next decade?
I just hope we get more money.
Okay.
You know, we're one of those sports where like I have to talk to you guys, you know, at the end of your collegiate careers about what you want to pursue and what you want to do, and so much of it is, hey, there's not a ton of money in it.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have another job. You're probably going to have to do something else.
Yeah.
Which just sucks. The fact that someone can't make it their entire, you know, lifestyle unless you have the financial support.
Very select few.
Yeah, that's incredibly hard, and I think we're deserving of it. I think we're deserving of bigger platforms. We're deserving of more money, of more sponsorships. I don't want to see programs continue to be cut. We're an Olympic sport.
Yeah.
You know, it's the coolest thing ever. We're not just every 4 years, but every 4 years we do. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, beach volleyball is so fun to watch. I'm like, you can watch it every day. You can watch it every year, you know, every spring. It's at the collegiate level. Like you can, there's so much. I hope it gets more televised. We get more screen time. It's a unique sport where, you know, it's really so fun to watch, and it's one of the unique sports. No offense to the men's game, I love watching men's volleyball. Unfortunately, that's not how the rest of the world feels all the time, and I think that needs to change. And I think more people need to be invested in men's volleyball as well. I'm just like all volleyball, more growth. However, beach is one of those like unique sports where like there's no men's version of it collegiately, and I think because of the rallies, it's more fun to watch than men's volleyball. And that's like unheard of in the world of sports.
True, yeah.
For people to be more interested in watching the women compete. So again, it's so unique. We have the avenue to garner a ton of attention for women's sports. So I think beach would be an awesome way to do that.
Do you think collegiate men's beach could be a thing?
I hope so. There's so many men that want to do it. It's just tough with Title IX.
Oh,
you know,
right,
and indoor programs already being cut.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so I don't know. I think it'd be really, really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know that it'll happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of like the sport itself, how do you see it evolving?
Yeah, I think the men's side's doing it already, you know, being more creative. You know, the Swedes are gnarly with the options, but I think it's important to remember why the Swedes got gnarly with the options, and it's because...
You told us this before,
yes, they did that because they were undersized, and they understood that Norway was the best at three-touch volleyball, right? Like, the Norwegian, you know, the beach volley Vikings, Anders and Christian. I went to school with Hendrik Mol, Anders' brother, you know, incredibly athletic family. But again, they're very good at what they do, so they're very good at three-touch volleyball. So the Swedes were like, hey, we need to evolve, and in order to beat a team like this, we need to find a niche where we can be better. And that was with the optioning and their ball control. And so I can see the sport continuing to evolve in that way, where we find new avenues to throw people off, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Usually what happens is it happens on the men's side, and then it trickles down to the women's side a few years later. And it's obviously going to have to be a different variation, a different version.
Yeah.
Because, again, men have 40-inch verts and have some crazy hang time. But I think women... our ball control is crazy. So if we really can hone in on that, I think we can continue to evolve in like trick plays and unique plays and coming up with different things to throw people off.
Do you think that takes away from like the sport?
No, I can see how some people say that. I don't. I think a point's a point.
Yeah.
If you're doing it well, and you know, so much of my success was finding different avenues to score points, and it wasn't always going to look orthodox, and it wasn't always going to look, you know, in a way that people are expecting it to.
Yeah.
Again, so being undersized, I was all for finding different ways to make it, you know, different. So no, I think it's great. It's just going to force everyone to get better.
Yeah, that's true. I think you kind of touched on this already, but like, what advice would you give to someone who wants to make a career in volleyball? Yeah,
I think coaching is a great route. I'm not gonna lie. You know, there's not a ton of money in competing, but if you could do both, you know, Taylor Crabb is coaching at St. Mary's and still competing professionally. You're seeing so many pros go into the coaching realm, so you have to get your foot in the door in that regard. But yeah, I think it's a sport where uniquely you can get a lot of reps on your own, and so you should take advantage of that. You know, get a ton of reps, make sure your touch on the ball is fantastic. And if you can do that, I think you'll be pretty successful.
Okay. Okay, so what's something most people will be surprised to learn about you?
I don't know. I'm a pretty open book. I guess I don't always tell people that I can speak, so I think that's something that surprises people. I definitely don't look as Middle Eastern as some of my family members do, and so I think I look like racially ambiguous or ethnically ambiguous. And so, you know, I'm like fully Afghan. Both of my parents are from Afghanistan. I can speak Farsi. I think that always shocks people. I have over 20 tattoos. I think that always shocks people because they're not always like visible. You can't always see them. A lot of them are on my back, so I think that shocks people.
Every time you wear tank tops, it's just it's like art.
And it's different. Like I look so different from when I'm wearing a long sleeve. I love reading. I'm like really into like the sci-fi, you know. I read about fairies and all that good stuff, you know.
Love it.
I don't know. I don't think I have much else that would. Do you know something about me that would shock people?
No, I mean, I feel like I know you pretty well at this point, so it's like,
I'm like love animals. My boyfriend has birds. That might shock people. They poop everywhere. I don't have any like hidden talents or anything. So, I speak Farsi.
Do you want to say something in Farsi?
Salam, chator hain? That's just saying hi, how are you? Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I can understand it better than I can speak it.
Yeah.
Because like my grandparents speak Farsi and they don't speak English very well. And I've actually tried to get my parents to speak to me in Farsi more often so that I can retain it a little bit better.
That, yeah.
But every once in a while I'll be thinking randomly and I'm like, oh my God, I'll call my dad. I'm like, Dad, how do you say trash can in Farsi? Like I completely forgot. So it's right there. I was like, how do I... And even now, it's lost on me. How do I say trash can in Farsi? Stay tuned. Next episode.
We'll add that in. I guess, okay, I want to take this a little bit deeper. So just now we talked about how beach volleyball can be like a very exclusive sport and traditionally, it's white dominant sport and all that. So how do you feel like how do I word this? But you get my question, being minority in the sport, how has it been for you?
It's been awesome. I think in, getting to coach people like yourself, being someone that you can look to see someone that's had success like that. I remember my coach when I was younger wanting me to try to write an article to USA Volleyball about being like the only Afghan player in collegiate beach volleyball. Which I honestly probably should have when I was younger, because but I'm seeing a lot more like Persian people in the sport as well, seeing more Middle Eastern representation. Yeah. And that's been awesome. I like always root for people in that way. Yeah. Because again, like some of my family members were like shocked my dad let me play a sport where like I got to wear spandex, and then in the beach realm, like shocked that I'm like competing in a bathing suit on the beach. So I think it's really broke some cultural norms in that regard. And so, it feels empowering. It feels cool. I root for every minority when I see them. I just think it's awesome. There's space for us in the sport. Sometimes we have to work a little bit harder to get there, but there's space for us, and that's just kind of like the message that I always want.
Yeah, and that's why I love Ari as my coach, because you inspire me so much. Watching what you've accomplished, it's just it's like if Ari can do it, then I can do it too.
Yes, absolutely.
So, thank you for that.
Of course.
Okay, do you believe in signs, superstitions, or manifesting? Why or why not?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I have 111 tattooed on me, my angel numbers. I don't know. Something that I always say is that the universe will work itself out. Just big believer in that there's, more things at play than we're aware of. And, part of manifesting is working towards the thing that you want. You can't just hope for it and you can't just wish for it. You have to put the work in. Yeah. And I think that's part of manifestation. So I think, if you put your mind to something and you're thinking about it all the time, you're naturally going to do things to put yourself in the best position to accomplish something like that. Yeah. I don't know. Karmic energy, the universe. I love the moon. I have a few crystals. I don't know. Yeah. Astrology is really cool, and so much of all of that it's tools to help you understand yourself better. And I think as humans, we're always trying to understand ourselves better and trying to understand other people better. So while astrology might not be exact and it's whatever, it's a tool. It's a tool for people to try to get to know themselves a little bit better and to understand their inner workings a little bit better, and I think that's great. The little personality test, Enneagram, types, do it all. See what get to know yourself. I think that's ultimately, you're most at peace in the world when you know who you are. Yeah,
totally agree. And even me myself, I've kind of been on this journey recently this year, and I don't know, it just makes life so much more fun, because it's
it does.
I think that's a sign. I think that's a synchronicity. Yeah. I feel like it's almost like you're in a video game almost.
Yes, exactly.
It's crazy.
It's cool.
Yeah. Okay, if you could have a matrix upload of any skill, what would it be?
Okay, what does that mean, matrix upload? I just instantaneously...
Yeah, so put a chip in any skill in the world, what would it be?
This might really shock people. I wish I could sing so bad. Not even volleyball related. I don't know if that's disappointing for some people. I would never shut up. If I could sing, oh my God, I don't know what it, so I love music, and I'm more of a lyrical voice person. I know some people really like melodies and tunes. Okay. I don't know, I can be brought to tears by a beautiful voice.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and every day I'm so sad that I can't do that, and I wish I could. Not saying that I would like be a famous singer, but I don't know. I just think it's like watching people sing. I'm like, oh, that looks so therapeutic, and that looks so like, I don't know. And maybe I could learn. Maybe that should be my new investment is like take some like vocal lessons, because I do think it's something that can be learned. But yeah, if I could just insert that and then all of a sudden, wow.
Dude, that's actually so funny that you said this, because I mean, I've always liked singing, but like recently I like kind of discovered that I can sing pretty well.
Yeah.
And I shocked myself, because I was listening to Kali Uchis album in the car, like her most recent one, and I was like, just singing along, and I was like, shit, like,
I'm kind of good.
This album speaks to me.
Yeah.
Like, I think I might, like, you know, sing some covers or something, but
that's
like,
awesome.
yeah, and like, yeah, I get what you mean. Like, singing is very therapeutic. Like, I started singing like on the way to practice, and I was like in such a good mood when I was at practice.
You put yourself in such a good mood, and I always say that I'm really hoping that none of you guys ever see me when I'm driving to school, because all I'm doing in the car is singing. Like, I'm just like singing at the top of my lungs. I sing in the shower. Like, I just love singing, and if I could sing well, you guys wouldn't hear the end of it. I'd like sing it practice.
You probably can. It's just you're putting a high standard on yourself, you know, knowing you.
Exactly.
But Ari, this has been so awesome. This was so fun. Thank you for doing this again.
Of course.
And I want to acknowledge you for being such an awesome coach and role model for me. And I wish you all the best for the next step of your journey. How can listeners support you on the next part of your journey?
Watch beach volleyball, invest in it, you know, put it on your social media if you can. You know, I think that's the easiest way to do it. And I think, just bringing more visibility to the sport. If we can all do our part in that, I think the sport will continue to exponentially grow. In my journey personally, I don't know, just support, love, you know, that's all I can really ask for. I feel like I have, you know, what I need in life, and so just continued support from people has been awesome. And if you're a player that I've coached, you can support me by texting me and keeping up with me, because I want to know how you guys are doing, and I want to make sure that you guys are happy and successful and all that good stuff. So yeah, you can support me by just keeping in touch.
Cool. How can people keep in touch with you?
At Ari Homayun on Instagram. Is the easiest way. And if you have my number, please text me. It's been the same since I first got a phone. So yeah, easiest way.
Awesome. All right. I think that's a wrap. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, or that I missed out?
She's the best. Tasha May is awesome. She does everything to the best of her ability. 4.0. Being on our one stage, like, again, this girl is just phenomenal, and you should support her on her journey for what she's doing. Give this podcast a listen. She's fantastic on social media. You can tell she really enjoys it and really loves it. So like, share, subscribe.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.